So we are recording this webinar, so thank you so much for tuning in. If you can't stay the whole time, if you want to share with your team, don't worry. I will send you an email with this recording, hopefully tomorrow, so that way you can review whatever you missed and or want to share with anyone else that might be interested in learning more about this. And if you do have any questions, there is a Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom, probably at the bottom. Somewhere in your console, there should be a Q&A tab. Feel free to put your questions in there and or in the chat. We can either answer them as we go through these different sessions. Everyone gets 20 minutes. Or we'll also get those questions to everybody after the webinar. So don't worry, you'll get your questions answered. It may not be during this workshop session. It might be afterwards, but please put them in the chat or the Q&A so that way we have them and we can get back to you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Shawn take the floor. Are you ready, Shawn?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Amy, and thank you everyone for joining us today for this presentation and for this discussion. As Amy said, my name is Shawn Dorward. I'm from SA Global. I'm the Vice President of our SMB division. At SA Global, we service and support Dynamics GP, certainly Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, and a plethora of the products from Microsoft, including the Power Platform and CE, etc. So I've been doing implementations for 20 plus years. I also have the privilege of working with the RecLogic team. So if you're familiar with RecLogic for Dynamics GP, which is a procurement solution for GP, we also have a solution for Business Central as well. So we're going to talk today about GP to BC migrations. Certainly a little bit of a disclaimer. Every one of your questions just simply can't possibly get answered in a session like this. So I encourage you to reach out after or put them in the comment section, question and answer session, or to reach out after and certainly be happy to help. The key here in this conversation, I think, is to recognize that if you're here, you're probably interested in learning a bit about what it's going to feel like or look like to move to BC. And I think I wanted to just kind of get that kick started by talking about why. So certainly the most recent reason, maybe the most jarring reason, is Microsoft's announcement for GP's end of life. That definitely is a reason, but there are other reasons beyond that. And as a consulting professional myself, we've moved many GP customers to Business Central before that announcement, all for good reasons. Here are just some of them. The modern tool, future-proof, which I put that in quotes. Who knows what that really even means, future-proof. But what I mean there is if you hear about AI, and I'm sure you have, you're not seeing any of that in GP. You're seeing that in the modern cloud-first, mobile-first applications. Certainly ease of access. If COVID taught us anything, it was to wash our hands, how to sing happy birthday, and to be in the cloud when it comes to a solution. Reducing costs, this is sort of on a case-by-case basis, but we see this for our former GP customers in the BC world, saving ongoing costs. And then certainly staying in the Microsoft stack. So if you're in the world of finance, interoperability is critical. Can I get this into Excel? Can I do this, get this into Outlook? Can I do this in Teams? So those are really, really important. So some key functional differences between the two that I just wanted to touch on. And there are definitely varying opinions around which people prefer. I tend to prefer Business Central these days. I certainly was a GPer, but the navigation is different. There's different ways of capturing your general ledger chart of account. You may have heard of this term dimension, which is relatable to a segment in GP. But that does give a lot of flexibility for reporting. Reporting is certainly one of those areas that is different as well, y'all. In Management Reporter for GP, you don't have Management Reporter in Business Central, even if you may have seen that online, because Management Reporter used to work with Navision in the past. There is something in the product called account schedules. Now it's renamed to financial reports, but it's similar to Management Reporter. But just to be clear, it's not a direct replacement. So those are differences. Smart lists, you have them in GP, you know them, you love them, you use them all the time. In Business Central, you have lists that you filter. It's very similar to smart lists in that way, but they're out of the box as well. Workflows and folks who are using payroll, you'll need to have a third-party solution, as Business Central doesn't have payroll. right into it. But one of the things on here that I think is key is direct data access. So right now you're on likely on an on-premises SQL server that you or your consultant can dial right into, do some data maintenance on the table, use some SQL script magic. You don't have that anymore in Business Central, and there's very good reasons for that, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But don't let that persuade you or think that that's a negative thing. The reasons that you get into those direct to data access situations just don't exist anymore in Business Central for the most part. Caveat. So I thought it'd be good to share some technical differences too. So we had the functional technical differences. We already know GP's on-prem. BC is your SaaS cloud first model, kind of seeing there on the right with the BC column being on the right. No direct SQL access, as we talked about. Table access, it's restricted, or you can access virtual tables through Dataverse. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong, but it's not that simple. Give somebody the SA password that I know that you're not doing in GP. Customizations, you can use in GP, you're using VBA or dexterity or even the modifier tool. In Business Central, there's this concept called extensions or private tenant extensions. Think of those like ISVs, like our fine friends here on the call will talk about as well. The design of that is pretty important. In the GP world, you customize right inside the product, and that creates consideration for when you do upgrades. Consideration usually means money. In a private tenant extension environment for BC, that customization is outside the core product, so make sure upgrades far, far less intrusive. And years of doing this myself, I still maintain that position. Upgrades are very, very smooth, often over 90%. No work involved whatsoever for Business Central. That may be hard to believe, but it's very, very true. Integration tools, integration manager, in and out. We use APIs. Backups are managed by Microsoft. You don't have to manage that anymore. It's pretty robust. Wanted to dispel some myths or some misconceptions. Business Central is not GP in the cloud. People have said that. It's not. It's just simply not. It's an ERP in the cloud. It's a Microsoft ERP in the cloud. That it is. But there is no from here to there that is just like a direct upgrade, if you will, that doesn't exist. We've already talked about the SQL Server stuff. Integration Manager will not work in BC. There's other ways to do it using APIs, but you can certainly integrate in and out. That's part of one of the benefits of being in the cloud. Even third-party tools to do virtual integrations, which is a wonderful concept. Check out my friends who know more about that. Now, BC certainly does not function the same. Business processes are all included, cutting checks, creating purchase orders, those kind of things. But the way you do it is just fundamentally different. It's a new product. And the sooner folks recognize that, the easier it is for them to wrap their arms around using the new product. This one here, can I use, I can keep GP forever. Listen, we could probably debate this for a long time, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but if I had to choose something that my choices were ride or die, I would probably need to consider an alternative. So it's really important that you recognize the hard truth that it's going to be difficult to support this beyond. Is it impossible? No, I totally agree it's not impossible, but I don't know that that's the right thing. I wouldn't do it if it were my business. The last misconception in here that I have is Business Central is young or incomplete, or it's not ready, or it doesn't do everything. And that's just simply not true. In my organization, we have businesses ranging from mom and pop entrepreneurs and startups all the way through to global deployments with multiple countries, multiple entities, all rolling up into consolidated financial reports, whether that's significant, robust manufacturing processes or supply chain and distribution projects, which we specialize in at SA Global. It is a true, thorough, robust ERP. So don't let that fool you. And that message, I think, not only comes from within the ecosystem, but from our competitors, from the NetSuites, the Acumaticas of the world. They're going to tell you that. Shawn told you differently. Not any product does everything, but it is far, far significant in what it can do. Speaking of what it can do, full robust modules, just like you see in GP, organized a little differently, but finance AR, etc., covering everything end to end that you would expect in an ERP. After all, the reason you do all this is for operations and reporting, um, and we have everything included. Now, not only does it have all of the features and functionalities, but we're talking about significant end user enhancements. If you're a GP user, you probably have asked, how do I hide this field or how do I add a field? How do I make my screen a little more applicable to my day-to-day job? All that is in the hands of the end user in Business Central. Not to mention, we've got mobile versions of BC, web version, even an app-based for Business Central to use. So a lot of different ways of going about it, but the cloud first, mobile first is totally embedded in Business Central. And here I'm also calling out Copilot. So if you've not tried Copilot, please check out my podcast, The World's Okayest, Shawn.com or lifehacks365.com to learn about my journey with Copilot in Business Central. But Copilot is Microsoft's user interface for artificial intelligence, UI for AI, making the things that we do easier. I love it. My customers love it. And we're just getting started on that journey. You're not going to see that in GP. You will see that in BC in an incredible demand too, as well as Microsoft is pushing hard on those rollouts. Check that out. Reduce reliance on third-party tools for the things that are native in Business Central. So be sure to not confuse my words here. There's definitely reason to use valuable ISVs, but the dependency in some key areas. Microsoft has offerings in some of those. For example, subscription billing. There are folks who offer subscription billing in this ecosystem, but Microsoft offers a sort of smaller subset of functionality if that's what you need. And then lastly, maybe the end user experience, perhaps the most important, is the interoperability. Being able to transact from and Business Central direct from Outlook. That's right, I said that. You don't have to leave Outlook to transact in BC. Crazy, I know. Teams, data, reports, interact with colleagues on KPIs and metrics that matter to your organization. Certainly data extracts, both live, well, let's call it dynamic and static in Excel and much more. So I'm going to kind of go through these a little bit more on the brisk side since we only have about 20 minutes. But there's definitely some license considerations. You're used to a perpetual model for GP with an annual maintenance. BC is a subscription model. So that subscription model is a monthly per user. And there are two tiers. There's the Essential and Team, which we'll talk about that differentiator in a moment. But I want to encourage you, if you're not working with your partner already, on checking out the Bridge to the Cloud program too. There's a second iteration which expires. It's good till the end of this year, 2025. Be sure to learn more about that as you can get some good discounts from Microsoft in that program. And the other most important consideration at the end of mainstream support for GP is coming up at the end of 2029, which is not very far away. So if you think of 2029 as the year of no implementations, although everybody is going to be implementing, I don't want you to think of 2029 as the year of no implementations. You should be using your BC already. So you have between now and the end of 2028 in theory. So work with your team to get ready to get this up and running and on the calendar ASAP, because partners will get busy, very, very busy as we get closer and closer to that date. Now, I mentioned those two differentiators on pricing. We've got the Essentials and the Premium. What you see highlighted in here in blue, which is everything except manufacturing and service module, is going to come in your $70 a user per month. That has been the price since BC came out. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. But for everything in the product, it's $100 a user per month. One consideration here is everyone has to have the same model in the tenant. So if you have one user who needs to use manufacturing, everybody must use it. So be sure to note that. There is another type of user, which is called a Teams user and also a device user. I'd be happy to share information about those as well. But just some brief information what this looks like. As an end user, as an organization, you're going to want to work with a partner to do a discovery or analysis of what your business processes are today. Get those properly documented, gather up your user stories, your user scripts, know what you need to do to run the business. let your partner then should go back, or if it's us, SA Global, and we propose a document that is a blueprint of sorts on what your new system will look like to achieve those requirements. And then from there, that agreed upon document sort of becomes the living expectation of the project, if you will. If it's not in the document, I always say it doesn't happen. But from there, we start to build the system and deploy it. Part of that is intense training, user acceptance testing, which is the end user's ability to take their training and apply it to their business process and make sure it works as expected, all ahead of the decision to go live. Now, you may see this phrase in their hypercare. If you're not familiar with that, as GP customers, hypercare is that what we call support services at SA Global, which is the intense support during go live. So you have people at the ready all the time during that transition. And then the maintenance or optimization after. So pretty simple. That doesn't mean it's easy, but the process is very, very important. Your methodology should be strong because you need to make sure you stick to a timeline. Here's a sample timeline. Y'all, this is literally a copy of one of our projects. Um, it's really important to make sure that you're keen to the risk for timeline changes and what that means. So here's a 6-month implementation. What those timeline risks are, I have some here. Um, Timeline risks are pretty simple. User adoption is one of the biggest ones. Change management. Everybody has a day job at your organization and you're moving from one tool to another. So it's going to be difficult. So you need to make sure you're prioritizing this project. PTO and life, it happens, right? People get sick and things like that. So timeline impacts matter. Migration challenges, just a couple key here that you'll be able to see completely on the slides, but some key ones here is cleaning up the data. You don't want to bring, what is the adage? Garbage in, garbage out, or garbage out, garbage in, however you look at it. But you want to make sure that you're cleaning up your data. Don't bring over all your old problems into the new system. Teams training is very, very important. Change management, can't say it enough. This is how you're going to get buy-in, how everybody will be supportive of the new processes. Some best practices, like I mentioned already, is to do the data cleansing to make sure that you're taking the right migration path. And what I mean by that is some organizations take a subset and they'll bring it over and they'll do this in phases. They'll do these parts and these parts and these parts, or they'll do it all at once. Make sure you work with your implementation specialists to understand what's best for your business. Make sure you're redesigning processes. Now is a great opportunity. I think every implementation is nothing more than a big old opportunity for improvement. As an end user, I always thought this was a great opportunity to shine. So I always challenge myself to step up to the plate to be a leader through the migration. Make sure you get the training you need at different layers. Your admin doesn't need to be trained how to create POs. Make sure you're training people the right way. And control scope. Throughout the implementation, you're going to have a lot of great ideas. Create a wish list for optimization, or a parking lot, as some people refer to it as. Definitely want to make sure that you do that. Those are just some best practices, but I think the important thing I want to mention here is the best practice of all. One single thing that I could pinpoint on is commitment to the project. That's from your partner, from you, the client, and the end users, and the consulting team. I always say there's no task, no obstacle too big that we can't solve. But if we don't commit to that, we're going to have a failed implementation. So the best practice is commitment to the project before it starts, throughout, and up until the end. A couple quick little tips for you here, if I can, is choose the right partner, start early. So don't wait till January 2029. Take a look at the marketplace. Make sure that you don't have customizations being built for things that you can take advantage of from the ISV community, which I think is a better option most times. Make sure training is done over and over and over again. Don't just show up with a few hours of training. Make sure that you're patient. Be patient during this process. Don't ask your partner to get you migrated in 60 days. Be patient. This is something that is an investment for your organization. It's critical to your operations, and it should be given that kind of treatment. But be excited about this. Look at it as an opportunity, I think, is critical, not just for you as an individual, but for the organization to position yourself for growth. After all, you have a modern tool with modern capabilities, and artificial intelligence coming at you in rapid pace. So look at that as an opportunity and commit to complete. With that, my name's Shawn Dorward. I want to thank you all for the time here today. Hopefully that was helpful. Please reach out. My email's on there. Shoot me an email or drop some questions in the Q&A, and I will turn it back over to Amy. Thank you all very much.
Oh, thank you, Shawn. That was so helpful. You answered a lot of questions, and Richard Wheeler does have a question for you in the chat, just so you know. That's a lot of information. Like I said, we are 20 minutes for each ISV and of course, Shawn as well. So we want to make sure we can cram in all this information for you, but also give you the recording, the slides, everything you need afterwards, and of course, answer any questions you have afterwards as well. So thank you so much, Shawn, for presenting and kicking off our GP to BC workshop. We appreciate it. All right, Eric from MetaViewer is up next. Eric, are you ready?
I am. Talk about a tough act to follow. I mean,
I
a
know.
great act to follow. Really kicked off the excitement, and just to emphasize that the capability is there. So yeah, great job, Shawn. I have the privilege of being able to come on now and just kick off, the seamless transition that does exist as you move from GP to BC. As much as it's a scary venture, like Shawn was pointing out, it's also an incredible opportunity to be able to, reevaluate some processes and also just redetermine if there's a need to alter a workflow to create a better best practice. And so I think, with change and chaos, there often becomes an opportunity at the end of it. And so as long as we always look at it with a positive light, I think we're going to see that there's some great potential in front of us. But let me take you through how MetaViewer can help you go from GP to BC and share some best practices on what we've discovered over the past 6 years while we've been, beginning this journey. As Shawn said, it's not something that's brand new. It has been around for a while, just not quite doesn't have the same sales as GP does, if you will. So consistency is the key. We think that during any time of an organizational change, you need some points of consistency within that change. And so by maintaining that consistency with MetaViewer, it's allowed our customer base to be able to transition from one ERP to the next and to be able to keep that same functionality, integration, security, workflows, and just really ensures that when there's all this other chaos around them, your bills are being paid, your expenses are being invoiced, and you're keeping your vendors and the rest of the folks that maintain your ecosystem of your business happy and content because they're not being affected by your internal decisions. And we think that it's really important. And we emphasize we're here to help and to help you stay consistent as you go through this evolution. Now, as you transition from Microsoft Dynamics GP to Dynamics 365 Business Central, it's a perfect time, as I was saying, to reevaluate your accounts payable process and to evaluate MetaViewer. If you're not currently a customer, we'd love to hear from you. But we're designed to seamlessly integrate with BC MetaViewer and to deliver more value, more visibility, and more control over all of your financial operations. With advanced automation, real-time insights, and enhanced spend management, we're able to transform how you manage cash flow, remain compliant, and really just ensure you have a better, deeper visibility into your payables and streamline those approvals. Unlock smarter decision-making. We often say, well, what's the ROI of automating your accounts payable? Everyone's going to tell you a different factor. I'm happy to say that the ROI of working with MetaViewer is we're going to give you back the currency of time. And I think that when you realize how valuable time is, right, it's one of the things we never get back. It's the greatest ROI that can exist. And so as we're looking at, does MV and B to BC, does that mean more value for better control, more vision for better cash flow, more views for better accounting? No, it means MetaViewer for Business Central. Being 45 years in the making, working with Microsoft, being focused in accounts payable and document management, we're well aware of what it is that keeps the business running, keeps people from being able to be up all night, and ensures that bills are paid. And so we're here to help. We're here to walk you through with any help or any consulting that you need. And please know that With MetaViewer, it's tried, tested, and it's something that at a time of fear, we're very confident in what we're able to offer and to provide to our current customer base. We're built for every letter in the business alphabet, from the C-suite and being able to accelerate that ROI to improving the productivity with finance. I mean, we can help sales and make sure they get paid for any of their expense reporting. And then just document management around being able to offer that real-time storage and sorting for HR, keeping your contracts safe. Oh, and then, of course, the main letter in the alphabet, A. We're really focused on helping your automated AP with precision, visibility, and efficiency. But again, 45 years, we've been through a ton of different types of iterations. And so here to try to offer you that confidence as you make the move to BC. At a time of change, there's a lot of C's that fall into place: complexity, concerns, and chaos. And we really want to focus on helping you be able to remove those C's from change, right? They shouldn't be challenges. They should be looked at as opportunities, as I was mentioning earlier. We're best in class AP solution that's been around for 45 years within the industry. My point around staying consistent at a time of change, we really want to not introduce any other, obstacles or speed bumps as you go through the process. So making sure that we have workflows that stay consistent, your vendor stays consistent. If there's knowing how the two platforms all differ, we can ensure that through proper click-throughs, you can get the same output that you've been accustomed to, and you're not having to do any more duplicate entry. You came to automation at some point to try to get away from duplicate entry or manual entry. And so we want to make sure that we still offer that with very little, I like to say zero process disruption, but you never know if, they might lose 5 seconds here or there based off of what else is going on within the project or how that timeline's laid out. And then just really making sure that you keep the vendors, the workflows, and the invoices consistent. By keeping that consistent through our intelligent mapping capabilities, we're able to ensure that we are removing the complexity, the concerns, and the chaos from the challenges that you're going to experience as you go through this change. We also want to focus on the idea of the seamless continuity, right? I mentioned the no downtime, the not needing to retrain your staff. We definitely advise maybe setting up a small training just to go through the new screenshots and understanding what BC is going to look like and how it differs from GP. What the click-throughs you might need to do to get that same output. But again, it's also a great opportunity to reevaluate the process, see if it makes sense to streamline one direction or the other and take that forward. It allows you to be able to be remote and secure, from anywhere you may be, whether it be at a son's hockey game, daughter's swimming lessons, or maybe just you're traveling between customer sites and you need to get on and approve or report an expense. And you can do that now from your cell phone, from your mobile, from your laptop or from a tablet. With the intelligent workflows enhancements, we have much better reporting, see real-time analytics, so you're making real-time decisions based on cash flow. And we offer you that white glove support, the ability to know that you have a partner when you join with MetaViewer that's going to allow you to be there every second of the day, all the way through to every month of the year. And you only get the M when you add MetaViewer. So building partnerships that actually last a lifetime. But now, that's one thing to talk about MetaViewer, and I really appreciate that opportunity today. Let's also talk about, some areas where you're going to see an improvement by moving to BC. Because I think there's a lot of us that were maybe a bit fickle on the idea initially, but there's a great opportunity here as you move to BC. If we look at just the platform, to go to being fully cloud native and having that hybrid option, so it allows everyone to be able to come up to speed, really is a game changer from what GP offered. The customization, mean, at MetaViewer, we've prided ourselves in being very customizable and always being there to fit into your workflows, not forcing you to fit into ours. However, now with AI and the low code and the power platforms, the customizations are at a whole new level. The UI and UX, I mean, web-based, it's just a very different feel than the classic Windows UI. The integration approach, the use of APIs and embedded Power Automate, it just really creates a more in sync and a quicker back and forth. It's we've noticed a huge change, and our customers that have made the move definitely are, once it's all said and done, very happy to be over on BC. And then the overall document handling, from just being able to take basic attachments and store it away to now really being able to offer that rich metadata tagging and have those structured workflows. It's a game changer in what the future is going to hold. But let's also just take a moment here and think about, okay, that's great. We have an accounts payable platform. I feel like my hand's being forced. I need to go to BC anyway. So, what is it that we can offer? And I think for all of us that are on the phone today, I think there's a lot of us that are able to offer. And so take the time, reach out, please ask questions. But really, it's creating that migration checklist. Making sure that you and the business are prepared to start that migration, not only to the new ERP, but then also to the added on layers and modules that you're going to add to create that overall ecosystem that just it simplifies the everyday, if you will. So, really having open communication for pre-migration planning, being able to talk through those steps, understand what's necessary, being able to discuss what that MetaViewer integration looks like, get the new environment, get it up to speed with from GP onto BC. Make sure that there's training and support. It's very important that we are able to then bring in the training and support while you're still fully functional on GP, so that everyone's capable and comfortable on the BC platform. And then to do your migration of your data and documentation, understanding what you need to bring over, what's relevant, but also ensuring that it lets you get through your business close on GP and then opening up on BC, so that you remain compliant throughout the whole transition with little to none double entry. And then just post-migration considerations. What are you going to do with your archived records? How long do they need to stay around? With some of the capabilities that come available with BC, let's utilize Power BI and understand how you can monitor the performance that BC is offering. And then just by talking to your users, really understanding how we can refine the workflows, making it better on a day-to-day basis. Now I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to just pass it off to a little demonstration that we recorded, so you can just see a quick workthrough of what's offered on behalf of MetaViewer when you look at Microsoft Dynamics BC.
Eric, is it supposed to be sound?
It's funny, Amy. I was just going to ask you if you were
When
hearing
you are
something.
sharing, I think you have to reshare and then click audio, share audio to somewhere.
Okay. Thank you for stepping in. So stop sharing and then reshare.
Yes, and it should ask you
Okay.
if you want to share audio.
Share sound.
Yeah,
I see.
there you go.
It's not giving me that option.
It's not?
Not when I go to that screen now. But I mean, let's see if yeah, it doesn't come up under the options.
Under options, share sound. It doesn't.
It says that. It just doesn't let me click on it.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't let me share either. Let me just see if I have to go in the back end and do something.
Okay.
Don't think so.
No, I went.
I'm gonna shoot,
Sometimes the best laid
clicked
plans.
on a couple of different things, so maybe that worked. Oh no, it doesn't let me do it because it's in progress. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
probably include it
yeah, that's okay.
in the recording.
No problem. And I mean, I can talk through, as long as we can still
Okay.
see the demo, I'm
Yep, you
happy
can
to
see
talk
it.
through it. But good to know. Thank you. I appreciate you stepping in. I was going to ask, but didn't want to interject, so that's great. Let's go back to sharing. Okay. One last time to share. Okay. And we'll go here. Here we're just watching how the invoices come in and how it goes through the vendor invoice goes through our artificial intelligent engine, calling it intelligent recognition, and then it goes through, pulls out the data, and then it brings in the needed fields over to your business central system. And if you're still getting paper, don't worry, you can scan those in. Process is still the same way once they're scanned in. As it goes into the workflow engine, we first decide if it's a purchase order or if it's not. If it is a purchase order, we extract the purchase order number, and then we communicate with Business Central, and then just go through a bunch of check and balances to make sure there's a perfect match, and then we can push it right to Dynamics. But if there's not a perfect match, we do have tools that can interact with the purchase order so that we can go in and make those necessary adjustments and reconcile it so that it does match what needs to match within BC. Invoices that aren't associated with the purchase order, they're a little bit harder to automate, but we can do it. It just, we train the system ahead of time. So by going through and teaching the system how to code or pre-coding the invoice, then we can go through and push that through multiple levels of approval, depending on what's needed for those non-POs. And then we can go and create that transaction in your Business Central system. With it being browser-based, we do host the solution for you. So you log into the browser and you can then just generate anything you need to have done within the browser. And once again, just pointing out here that we could use the mobile tablet, but just being remote friendly. Everything's built into product and it's very real time. So anything that you're changing, account code, dimension, it is immediately available in MetaViewer. So it's reaching out to Business Central as we process. So we always get the very latest in terms of vendors. Everything is in real time being synced, and so you don't have to worry about having to sync up the system. You log into MetaViewer. So after extracting the data, it gets delivered into the system. So it's normally going to show up in the AP preparation queue. And then it either gets processed automatically or after some interaction. And then after it gets fed to Business Central, it'll go down to the documents and process section. You can also utilize the searches and go through any of the other areas or parameters, just to better find things in real time when you want to go back and look at the history of other payments or other invoices that have come in. So this is waiting for payment. And we pull in this PO and we validate that it's a PO and it's open. And then we have a full audit trail on the right that just highlights what it is we're tracking. And then so here's all the checks and balances that happen in real time to make sure that it's aligned with what's there. And because it all tied out, we pushed it over to Business Central. There's no need for any approvals. It just gets pushed into Business Central. But if the invoice is related to a purchase order and it doesn't match, then you got to go out to the preparation queue, and that's where you do some of the reconciliation manually. So we're going to look at this invoice, and we're going to just highlight how you can go through doing that. You'll see it highlights the check that it missed. Like when you look at the checks and balances, everything else in the automation rules was passed, but there was the one area where it didn't correlate, and so it highlights, and then you just have to come back, and then you can go in and you can try to code and reconcile it. So it pulls everything back from Business Central, and it allows you then to be able to match everything in real time and sort out what the issue is. It looks like down here when we're looking at some M17 wiring harnesses, right? The issue that comes up is that when you look at the receipts, the receipt quantity is more than the quantity that's on the invoice, and so it's not sure what, what are we paying for? What receipts are being paid for and what ones aren't. When you see there's 171 and we need 171, by removing that bottom line of 129, we now have a correlation and a match. We can pass reconciled, and then it moves over to Business Central. But for invoices that aren't related to purchase orders, let's have a look at that. Here you can see on the document all the fields that are extracted through our intelligent recognition services. And with no purchase order number, right, it comes up as a non-PO related invoice. So by going to code and reconcile, it does try to code it up through your Business Central, but there's no default that's in place. And so by adding some characters into the account code, it should be able to bring up in real time to the chart account what it is that's needed in terms of an account base, so that we can then reconcile it. In this system here, we have department and customer group as dimensions that we have laid out, but we can make those dimensions and customize those to whatever it is that you need within your business. It does only allow us to pick dimensions that are valid within a customer group. And if you have rules that certain accounts require different divisions to be filled in, then we can set those rules so that has to occur. Now we send it for approval. It knows where it's automatically going within the approval process. So now as we log out and we log back in as Joe, the Department 100 approver, he logs in, he sees the invoice. Right? Joe only needs to see a certain amount of fields, so we remove the fields that he doesn't need to see. It's read only, just so he can review what's there, and then he can go through and either approve it, add GL coding if needed be. Otherwise, he clicks approve, and he gets moved along into the audit trail onto the next approver. So if there's no other approvers left, it goes to the final review queue. And so if I log back in as the overall AV user, right, I can then go and see if was there any payments that were rejected. But it got approved, so it's gone to final review. So here we go there. So now your accounts payable analyst has one last chance to just confirm what they're seeing, make sure that it's approved along the right sequence. Now, if everything's aligned, you just export to the ERP. So we push that transaction now to Business Central, and now you can see the document and waiting for payment. So it's been pushed along, it came in, it was processed, it was approved, and now it's in waiting for payment. So, I mean, this isn't a new function with BC from GP. And if you're using an accounts payable automation platform, then you're well aware of the capabilities that are out there. And the idea of taking processing from literally minutes, if not tens of minutes, to seconds is not just something that's said, it's something that could be demonstrated, and that can, with enough discussion, communication, and understanding of what your process or platform or process is needed, the platform is able to adhere and make sure that we can keep you compliant as well as keeping you efficient. So that's just a quick highlight and a quick high level demo. And we would love to talk to anyone who wants to understand more about automating their accounts payable processes, especially as they make this move. And as much as we talk about not wanting to add any more chaos to a time of change, I think the minute you can get away from any manual processes and into automation, I think you're removing chaos regardless of what time it is. High level again, let's just quickly, I thought it was really important to use the time to talk about that overall migration checklist and how we break it down into 5 sections. So that pre-migration planning, really being able to have their stakeholder alignment, understand the documentation that you have and what needs to be migrated. Use this time to reanalyze and design workflows if needed, but also understanding what BC's structure is by utilizing the accounts payable specialist who understands the ERP as well. We can help show you the outputs that you want to receive based on, and then show you what click-throughs are needed in order to get to that output. And the best part about the licensing review, if you're using MetaViewer, there's 100% guarantee that we'll be able, there's no issues when it comes to moving to BC from any legacy GP system. So once you have the pre-migration done, you then want to install MetaViewer integration with BC. You want to have those APIs set up. You want to have your user authentication prepared, and you want to make sure your workflow logic is aligned. The reason I say this is because you want to just really ensure that we get MetaViewer up and running as we then go from, and we have GP still running so that we keep everything fluid and consistent. Amy, are you telling me I'm running out of time?
Yes, I am.
I knew that's why your face came back on video. So I will speed it along, but from the MetaViewer integration, we provide some training, that go live support. And then once that has occurred and we're live, we will bring over your data and documentation, and then just some things to consider. But most importantly, Amy, thank you so much. You keep the buzz alive, no matter what it is we're talking about. And I know it's very much appreciated from our side of the house. And for everyone listening, I would love to have a conversation, understand where you are in your migration and your journey. And we're here to help if you're looking for, a sounding board or anyone to partner with as you decide to make the move. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric. Sorry, I had to cut you off.
Oh, no. Hey, it was better than the cane at the Oscars, so I appreciate it. Thank
you. No dropping the mic or, the mic going down into the floor while you're trying to talk. All right. Janice, are you ready?
I am ready. I will get started and I will try to keep it.
We technically have this for 2 hours, even though everybody has 20 minutes, so don't feel like you have to rush.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and show my screen and I will get my slideshow up here.
There you go.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Okay, so I am Janice. I'm with Blue Moon Industries. We are also an ISV, and I appreciate everybody's comments, and particularly Shawn kind of setting the stage for us here. And so from our perspective, what we wanted to talk about today was that ability to look at what you have today. How do you evaluate it? What are all those decisions you need to make? And how is Blue Moon doing with their products? What products are coming over? And if they're not, why not? That kind of thing. So a little bit about us. We have been developing products for the Dynamics GP space for quite some time. We have definitely been adding to our BC offerings as well as F&O or finance as it's referred to now. We've got a few thousand customers out there using our products, and we're really excited about the prospect of them moving to BC, what those products are that are going to move with them. So we just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about kind of where we are with that. And, as Shawn mentioned, it is a transition, and there's a lot of steps to it. And despite what you might be hearing or what, partners and customers, we're all hearing a lot of different pieces of information. It's something that you need to start talking about and start planning for, but it's not something that is anything you have to panic about. So from our perspective, we're still getting asked for new features and still adding those new features to our Dynamics GP products. We're still innovating those and keeping those fresh and new features for our existing GP customers. As well, we're actively developing, supporting our BC add-ons and adding more to that, including new products that are being discovered as maybe a gap in what a particular industry or type of customer needs when they're using Business Central. And then also we're helping those customers make that transition. What needs to move over from the GP system? What doesn't? What would be, something like that. So we're really looking at that whole picture of our relationship with the partners and with the customers of those partners to help them plan those strategies that Shawn was discussing earlier. So just a quick look at some of the Blue Moon products that we've already moved into the BC space, and we'll talk a little bit about why. Our electronic payment suite, which is our fully integrated electronic payment processing, that's credit card and ACH electronic payments from your customers, processing those in a fully integrated Business Central environment. We also have an integrated customer invoice portal. So if you're emailing those invoices to customers and you'd really like them to go out and pay their own invoices, look at that outstanding balance, be able to apply a credit memo against an invoice and kind of evaluate their own aging, we've got a fully integrated invoice portal that you can set up and maintain within Business Central and then have your customers work in that self-service mode. Another popular product we had on the Dynamics GP side is our project tracking, and that product is moved over into Business Central, as well as our container management, chargeback processing, and warehouse integration. Because as you talk about, your own migration, or if you're a partner looking at your customers and they're moving, yes, there may be, as you're kind of checking the boxes, there may be functionality that's in the Business Central side that is built in, that maybe was not built in on the GP side. However, you also have a customer that's been using, for example, a warehouse management system with with their users all comfortable with it for the last 10 years. Well, maybe they don't want to move to, let's say, the built-in functionality. Maybe it's not the right choice for them as a company. And that's why, for example, in our warehouse integration, we have made a point of bringing that tool over into the BC space, not blindly. We know that there is functionality that will handle some of this, but we also know that that's a big undertaking. And it might be a big undertaking that with all the other migration considerations isn't something they want to do yet. Maybe they want to take more time to evaluate it. In that case, we've got our product there to allow them to continue that. And so that's what we're saying about, how we look at whether we bring a product over, let's say from Dynamics GP over to Business Central, but also if we do, why are we doing it? What are the reasons behind that? And how is that going to support our partners and customers? So that's what we have so far. As if you know us, we have a lot of products and we've, in some of them, we've specifically chosen not to move into the Business Central space. And that's primarily because the feature is well handled within Business Central. Or as Shawn was saying, Business Central has been around for a while. It's not a brand new product. It's just being more promoted now than it was before. So there are a lot of other ISVs that have some great products that may already be doing what our product did. So in that case, we evaluated that and decided that, we didn't need to move something, move one of our products into that space because it's well handled. And so not only are we going in and making sure that we have the right solutions for our partners and their customers, we do want to make sure that we're also doing that thoughtfully so that there, if there is a feature that's already in the software, that we're not overlapping that. So enhancing Business Central in the areas that we've talked about in the products that have moved so far gives you that ability to continue or to add our payment suite, the project tracking, chargeback processing for managing those customer deductions and remittances. If you have customers or you are a customer that works a lot with the major retailers like Target and Home Depot and Walmart and that kind of thing. If you're bringing in products from overseas using container processing and you're filling up containers or shipments to bring those products in, we have a product that tracks that as well. And then, of course, integrating with existing warehouse management systems to send and receive back POs, receipts, sales orders, etc. in the system. So those are kind of the highlights of some of the products that we have that we're bringing over to Business Central. But really what's important for this session is really what kind of questions should you be asking if you're a customer or as as a partner, what are we asking our customers? How are we starting the conversations here? And that's what we look at is, what processes in your current system, like in Dynamics GP, are really critical for us? And how are they managed now on the Business Central side? Shawn had that great slide of saying, hey, here's how it's done here, here's how it's done there, kind of thing. Looking at that and looking at those areas. And then are there, let's say if there is a gap, are there ISVs that have, solved that problem and what could be done better? And what are some things that maybe we were doing in Dynamics GP that we can do even better in Business Central by adding, automation of some type, whether it's workflow or something like that. So by using that as kind of our benchmark and working with our partners and customers, it not only helps us define whether our product is going to make that move and here's how the migration is going to go, but also there might also be some new opportunities to add products into our Business Central family that might be identified by reviewing all of those requirements with those customers. So for us, we want to be there to be an extension of your team as a partner, you as a customer. We want to understand that migration, how you're going to be using it, so we can help recommend the right products. If you're using one of our products now, for example, chargeback processing, there are setups in there for different adjustment types and other, let's say, setup features that we will migrate over for you or work with your partner to migrate over for you. So you're not starting brand new with some of our products that have those setup options. We're bringing those over where you want us to, so that when you're migrating, you're also migrating that data as well. We work extensively with partners to plan the implementation so that we're ready and we've got the products in place and we're providing that assistance where needed. We also do want to, again, review that migration path so that if we have setups within our current products on the GP side that you want to move with you, that again, we move those along with you. And then, of course, we are continuing to provide our support to you, the partner organization, to you, the customer, to ensure that that transition is as smooth and hiccup free as it can be, and that that all of those expectations of taking you from point A to point B are covered, and we really want to be part of that process, because the closer all the teams work together, the smoother it might be. The other thing is that it's, as Shawn said, yep, it is, there's certainly the stated end of life. And I know there is certainly competitors that want to have you move to another product, and they're trying to put that fear in that it needs to go away. If you don't do it by the end of the year, bad things are going to happen. But the reality is, as you know, as we've been talking about, you have to run your business, and you have to run your business thoughtfully. You've got maybe busy seasons. You've got all of the other things that, you know, that impact doing a major new implementation of software. And that's one of the great things I'm glad that Shawn mentioned, is that there is this perception that this is just the cloud version of GP, and it's going to be something over a weekend or something over a month, but it isn't. It is a brand new ERP system that you are migrating to, meaning it has a full implementation with it. So we want to make sure that you know that you can approach that thoughtfully. Our products will continue to be there on the Dynamics GP side. Our support will continue to be there on the Dynamics GP side as you plan the migration that makes sense for you. And we, again, we're not turning off any of our products, if you will, or not making them available. We're going to be there throughout the migration timeline that, you know, that you may be going through with your company. So with that, please contact us if you, one, have any questions about any of our products, or if you're a partner and you're wondering, is this product going to move? This customer has this requirement, anything like that. We would love to talk to you about your process, how to work with our, you know, partners and customers in the best way as you go through this migration. We are certainly available for meetings, for lunch and learns, and all of that. And as well, we will be at all of the upcoming conferences where all of this is being discussed, and we're happy to have those conversations at that time. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Amy. And I tried to make up a little time there.
No worries. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I just want to also clarify, and you guys can let me know since you're the experts, but, you know, being on GP is such a legacy system. It's been around for, you know, a long time. A lot of those GP customers probably have numerous ISV solutions, right? So I guess it would make sense for them to kind of create that checklist of all the different ISV solutions they have currently, and what is, like you said, Janice, what's in BC already based on those ISV solutions that you don't move over, what isn't, and where you can fill those gaps based on which ones can move from GP to BC, which ones aren't moving from GP to BC. Maybe you have to start with a new one in BC. So there's like, even with just ISVs alone, because as we know, a lot of GP customers have probably 5 to 10 of them, or maybe more, right? They have to really go through and comb through which ones make sense to keep using, and or figure out what's gonna be in Business Central. So I feel like that's a huge part of this implementation process.
It is. And I think that, you know, the relationship with the partner that you have is such a critical piece of that, because I know for me, when I work with customers, a lot of them don't realize what they're using is an ISV. And that's because we've all done such a good job of making it look and feel like GP.
Right.
And so as a result, I think sometimes customers just think it's part of their GP system, and it may or may not be. And so therefore, by having a strong partner involved in the implementation and migration that has a handle on that, that can say, here's what it is, and start talking to them now about, here's how this is handled in Business Central, or here's how it isn't handled, you know, whether it's a functionality that's ISV based or not. I think that's what starts to lower that the stress of the migration, because, you know, you've got a handle on everything, and now you've got the information and you know how to move it. So yeah, I agree. Knowing all of that is just a really key part of the success of any of the implementations.
Yeah. And like you said, that was a good point. Some of these solutions, right, are embedded in Great Plains. They don't even know it's an ISV solution. So that's where the partner comes in and says, hey, you know, you have all these different solutions. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I have all of these? But thank you so much, Janice, for sharing all of that great information and how we can help our GP clients moving from GP to BC, and partners as well. So I appreciate you being here on the workshop.
Thank you.
All right, Rose, are you ready? We have Solver up next.
All right, I'm ready. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
So I'll go ahead and share my screen here and we'll get right into it.
Okay.
You should be able to see my PowerPoint now.
I do.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So I know we're all gathered here today to talk a little bit about what happens, what to consider when you're migrating from GP to Business Central or any of the other Dynamics products here. So what I'm going to focus on today here with Solver is what happens to some of that historical data when you migrate through. What happens to some of the reporting? What happens to the data continuity? And what happens to your budgeting and forecasting side of things? So the agenda for today, we're going to talk a little bit about who Solver is, why Solver for Dynamics in general. I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture, and then we're going to get into the GP to Business Central migration and how the out-of-the-box solution within Solver can help with that. And then we're going to leave some time for any Q&A here as well. So before we get into this further, I just wanted to share a little bit about who Solver is. We've been around for almost 30 years now. We're headquartered in California, but we've got offices all around the world. And while we're industry agnostic and ERP agnostic, we work across all industries and ERPs, but we do specialize in certain verticals. So we've got software as a service, we've got construction, senior living, non-for-profit. So those are some of the areas that we really excel in, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in the session as well. We're also recognized as a G2 leader in the CPM space. So for those of you who are not familiar with what G2 is, it's an authentic peer-to-peer evaluation of software products and services on the platform. So we're highly rated there. We're also SOC 2 and HIPAA compliant, and we've partnered with some of the top global publishers and business consulting firms across the board for providing the most value through Solver. So let's define what Solver is and what extended financial planning and analysis is. So it's all of the things here that you can see on the screen, which are really the core principles of a financial planning and analysis tool, like budgeting, you've got forecasting, you've got reporting, but then that's extended beyond just the finance department or just the members of the Office of Finance. So the idea is that you would integrate a system like Solver with your financial data, with your operational data, with your processes within the organization, and then you're going to foster some of that collaboration across different departments by providing them a shared platform for that planning and analysis. And traditionally, I know Janice mentioned this right before, that traditionally this is done with multiple tools, multiple ISVs, that you might currently have with GP, multiple modules. You might be using Management Reporter today for your reporting, but then you might be using Excel for your budgeting and forecasting. So what really Solver is trying to do here is eliminate the need to having to use all of these different tools that necessarily aren't connected. They require integrations and the fact that you have to learn multiple tools. So Solver does all of this in one suite, one cloud portal, and one platform that is easy to implement and easy for you to learn. So here's the architecture of how everything works in Solver. So at the center and the heart of it, we've got Solver's data warehouse, which stores information from disparate systems all into one place. Now, those systems could really be anything. Of course, it would be all of that financial information and operational type information that we will be pulling in from GP. You might have other data sources like a CRM system. You might have a payroll system. You might even have data that's sitting in Excel today that you want to marry and pull in. Once all of this information sits within that Solver data warehouse, you can then use that for reporting, for consolidations, for planning, and for analysis. And the same applies, of course, when you do migrate over to Business Central or any other ERP. So within reporting, there's various use cases. We've got multi-company financial consolidations. There might be multiple chart of accounts. There might be automated eliminations that you want to do, and any ad hoc or self-service kind of analysis. And with planning, you can, of course, customize planning modules using unlimited scenarios to adapt to any changing needs that you might have. So now that we know a little bit more about Solver and about how it works, let's talk about how we can help you with that migration from one ERP to another. How can we help protect that data? So Solver's migration mapper really addresses some of the challenges of having to transfer that now called legacy GL data from GP to potentially a new ERP system that you might be switching over to. So through this migration mapper, we're going to ensure that all of your financial history is preserved. It's easily accessible in Solver for any of that detailed reporting and analysis that you might want to do. So some of the challenges that we typically see when clients are looking to migrate are typically around the fact that it is a pretty heavy lift, right? There's a lot of moving parts. So that really impacts the data that gets migrated over to the new ERP. We've heard customers maybe only bringing in minimal beginning balances, maybe the current year, but not much more beyond that. And that's because the customers need to be able to have access to that historical data, which is a lot of work. So when you're looking to analyze some of that legacy data, it requires customers to have a license to have to maintain their old ERP system. In this case, GP may or may not even have that moving forward, but that can be challenging. The other thing can be pretty challenging there is with any account structure changes. So when you're in GP today, you're familiar with the string structure. And when you move to a new ERP system, most of them currently use the dimensionality structure. So again, most customers take this as an opportunity to overhaul some of their chart of accounts, moving from a string to a dimensionality kind of a view, or even just in general wanting to clean up a little bit of their chart of accounts. So again, having those different structures between those two ERPs, protecting that legacy information in Solver, it can get very difficult when it comes to validating and reconciling some of that data. It leads to data inaccuracy. And of course, all of this results in cost and time impacts, both for the migration and on an ongoing basis moving forward. So we're going to see how Solver can help with that. We've also got the increase in our new buzzword AI. And for a lot of the tools to be able to use that predictive model for analysis, including Solver, having that historical data to, see trends is really key. So we're going to take care of some of that for you. So what is the migration mapper? This diagram here is a very simple overview and architecture of how we can help you map your legacy data to your new chart of accounts so you can have that continuity in reporting and visibility into your historical data. So if you look here on the upper left side, we have our legacy ERPGL, which would be GP in this case. And this would be something that we would be connecting to within Solver. On the upper right-hand side, we're going to have your new ERP. That could be Business Central, that could be any other ERP. And both of those ERPs are connected to our Solver data warehouse right here in the middle. Now at the very top center, we've got our Solver data mapper, and that's what's bringing in the data from the two different systems to produce this output that we have here at the bottom. So the two outputs are Solver reports that you can produce for your legacy GL data and structure. And then you've got Solver reports that you can produce with that legacy data remapped to your new ERPGL so we can have that historical data in the new format. So that's really giving you that flexibility to be able to create reports both with your existing ERP as well as the new ERP that you're going to move forward to. So what I'm going to do here real quick now is switch screens to my Solver Cloud Portal, and I'm going to show you a little under the hood and show you how we can handle this in Solver. What you have on my screen here is a very typical use case and a very typical scenario for a customer or for customers like you guys who are looking to migrate to a new ERP, currently only can bring in beginning balances, and of course want to store some of that historical data. So I'm going to switch my screens here, and what you can see is the Solver Cloud Portal, which is accessible through any browser, any device, and once you log into your credentials. And here at the core, I'm going to go right into our data warehouse, which we've been talking about, where we can store all of that information we're going to be bringing in. And here you can see the GL summary information as well as the GL details that are coming in from your current system. But we know now that when migrating, you're going to want to set up a mapping. And that's going to be that crosswalk between the legacy data in GP today to the new ERP. So what we can do here in Solver is we can leverage that mapping and create this mapping dimension in Solver that has your original account string or dimensions. And we can also maintain that new account or any financial dimensions that we're mapping into. So you can see all of those mapping clearly listed out here. It can be a different number entirely. It doesn't have to be the same number or the same set of dimensions from your string. It could vary there as well. But this will really give you good visibility into your mapping. You can make any adjustments, you can make any changes to it throughout the process. If you realize you made a mistake, you want to fix it. This is a good area to make sure everything is in order here. Now, what do we do when this data is mapped in here? To migrate this over, Solver has also created a set of rules for you. So when I go here into the rules area, we've got a number of scripts that take us through moving the GP data from the GL module to a legacy module within Solver, which is where we preserve that original structure, we preserve that data. And then what some of the other scripts do here is that you take that data and remap it to your new structure within your new ERP. So in addition to having that data coming in from the new ERP, we also have all of our GP data that's remapped. No manual processes involved. Again, if we need to make any changes, once we go through this, if we see that something isn't mapped correctly, which does happen very often, we can go and update that mapping. We can refresh everything, and we've corrected our data right here. So this is a little behind the scenes, in addition to some of these rules and scripts and the mapping table that's available for you within Solver. As part of the process, we've also got a standardized set of report templates. Now, for those of you that are using Management Reporter today with GP, we'll need to switch to either the out-of-the-box reporting that comes out of Business Central or to a solution like Solver where you're going to house all of the reporting. Unfortunately, like many ERPs in the space today, the out-of-the-box reporting is not as flexible and robust. So a system like Solver can help you house some of that financial reporting, operational reporting, migrating over from Management Reporter. So what we've offered you are a few standard templates that are included as part of this. So first off, we've got some audit and validation reports. And this gives us the ability to check which accounts need to be mapped, which ones are being mapped. We can ensure that all of them have been mapped. So we can do some validation as part of this process. The other report type we have is an audit report. And this is a really good example of where I can see all of my balance sheet accounts, I can see my income statements accounts, and I can confirm that they're properly being mapped between the two systems. And what I can also do here is if I right click into a number and go into General Ledger, I can drill down here to see the detail and the transactions of that mapping. And I can even see here what account and what transaction was being mapped. So, from my original GP to my new system. So this is just a really good audit trail, really good visibility into really everything that's going on here. So again, if I have anything in here that doesn't look right, I can fix it up on just ongoing analysis or on my historical data from my GP system. And then we've got a few financial reports that come out of the box, and these are both for the legacy structure as well as which is GP to date for you guys, and also the new ERP structure. So we can run our current income statements with the BC structure, make sure everything checks out. We can also run things on the new structure, so we have that continuity against our migration. And we can look at all our account details presented within Solver right here. All right, so that was just a quick sneak peek of how Solver can help you there. I'm going to come back here to just wrap up the presentation here, but some of the benefits of what you just saw here, we have established that we can reduce a lot of cost and time associated with migrating some of that GP data today. We saw how we're going to be able to preserve and convert that GP data, which means you can report on your current structure and your new structure for your ERP moving forward. It's just going to allow us to seamlessly incorporate some of that data into reports for analysis. Now, of course, that we have more than just beginning balances. And this, of course, gives you the ability to do any analysis on your current GP data without having to go back into it necessarily. We already looked at the drill down there for some mapping information. And one common question that I get asked around is, this is great, it comes with Solver, but what is that implementation time looking like? So what you saw on my screen, to have something like this set up, it's not a huge lift. It's about maybe a 1 to 2 day setup. So it's a pretty swift implementation timeline to get something like this set up as well. And before I wrap up, I know I briefly mentioned that we are we're dominant in certain industries, and particularly we have some accelerators to deliver quick time to value for your implementation. Aside from just your migrations, even if you'd like to grow your reporting and your planning and analysis just within Solver, if you guys are in any one of these industries, feel free to scan the QR code there on the top right. This will give you a good overview of some of these industries that we specialize in, what are the exact metrics and KPIs that we can help you track, how we can offer you robust reporting capabilities, ensure reports and planning templates to be accurate, timely, and fully compliant with some of these industry standards. So with that, Amy, if there's any questions, I'll take those now. Otherwise, I'm going to hand them back to you.
Rose, there was one question, and I
Yes.
told them I would have you reach out to them. They would like to see some of the dashboards and KPIs that you create. So
Yeah.
I let them know we can certainly schedule some time for you to show them that.
Awesome. That would be great. Perfect.
And if there are any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we will answer those there. But thank you. Keep the questions coming. I see Shawn's been answering a lot, so thank you, Shawn.
Great. Thank you, guys.
All right. Last but not least, Liz, are you ready? We have Liz from Yooz to wrap up our GP to BC workshop.
Okay, Amy, I'm ready. I'm here.
Okay.
All right. Let me just share my screen really quick and then we will get going. Here we go. Awesome. Well, it's nice to
I don't see anything yet. Oh, here we go.
There we go. There we go.
It's just a little delay, but there we go.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to be a part of the ISV Society's program today. My name is Liz Heisel. I am a senior account executive over Microsoft here at Yooz, and I'll be talking to you about transitioning from Microsoft GP to Business Central with Yooz. Before we dive into the discussion, we'll just take a quick look at the agenda, what we'll be covering, understanding the transition, what kind of functionality will be maintained, how will it work if on, with some support and guidance that we can give you there, some key questions to ask when making a selection with an AP automation partner to make an informed decision, the time frame and expectations. And then also we'll just go over a quick review about Yooz as well as some questions at the very end. So just a little bit about Yooz. We were founded in 2010 as a cloud-based AP automation platform to provide a flexible, user-friendly, and scalable solution. Our goal is to address market gaps by offering an affordable alternative to complex, expensive on-premise systems. So at Yooz, we strive to enable the businesses of all sizes to benefit from AP automation with scalable pricing based only on document volume. Yooz does reinvest 25% of its revenue back into its R&D, fostering innovation and proprietary AI-driven technologies. We've published over 100 scientific papers on AI and machine learning, solidifying our expertise in document automation and dedicate exclusively to document automation. So we ensure that our clients are receiving, the most cutting edge solutions. So what do you need to know about the transition? So, we're all aware of, the GP sunset. So while you have time, it's important to start planning your move now. You don't want to be left in a position where you're scrambling to find a new solution in that time crunch. I'm sure, and eventually you'll have to make a move because staying on the unsupported platform can leave you vulnerable and limit capabilities. So, taking advantage of modern technologies is always a good thing for your company. So the good news is that there's still plenty of time, obviously, to make that transition by starting the process early. So you can ensure a smooth, successful upgrade to Business Central, especially with tools like Yooz AP automation to help you simplify that process. So when thinking about transition, let's address a common concern that many businesses will have when transitioning to the new system. Will I lose my features? Good news is with Yooz, we are directly integrated into Business Central, so you won't lose any features that you were using in the previous system. In fact, you might gain new functionalities that you weren't able to with GP. So inside of Yooz, you'll still have access to all the features and capabilities that Yooz provides, just as you did in GP, and along with all of your historical data. So it's the invoice processing, the approval workflows, the integration with your financial system. Everything will continue as it did before, just with those added benefits of being in the cloud. So if you weren't using certain features in GP, perhaps they were more complex or they weren't available in your current setup, you might be able to have access to them in Business Central. The only difference you might see inside of the Yooz platform is when you make the switch to Business Central, some of the fields might look a little bit different. So Business Central may organize and label them a specific way, like inside of your, those header fields, line fields, the way, if you're moving from segments into dimensions, right? So it's just a purely cosmetic effect, and it won't affect the system in your day to day. So the user experience will remain seamless. The core functionality you rely on will still be there. Just some of the fields and labels will be adjusted for better clarity and alignment with Business Central's more modern design. And this is a part of our of the standard upgrade. The change will be very minimal for most users. So How it will work. When you do choose to make the swap with Yooz, you'll have support throughout the entire process. Sometimes this transition can feel a little bit daunting, but we at Yooz we've streamlined the entire process to make it as smooth and hassle-free as possible for our customers. One of the biggest concerns businesses have is how long will it take? Whether or not it will disrupt daily operations. Should we wait? Should we start this now, or wait until we're launching live with BC? So the entire migration process can be up and running in a month or less with Yooz. That's including the setup of your Yooz AP system with Business Central. So we understand, time is valuable. Our dedicated implementation team will work quickly to minimize any disruption. So another great feature about the Yooz system is that no middleware is required. So um, there's no extra layers to worry about, no potential points of failure. So because Yooz integrates seamlessly with Business Central, so you don't have to worry about adding any additional tools or software getting in the way of those processes. And here's another thing that will bring peace of mind is that the cost remains the same of Yooz. The migration doesn't involve any hidden fees or unexpected costs. So you can rest easy knowing that there are no additional charges when moving from GP to BC with Yooz. Everything is included, so your budget stays intact. We actually waive that implementation fee whenever customers first sign on with Yooz that are starting in GP and moving to BC eventually. We write that in and we waive that for you to give you the best service and experience during your transition. In terms of setup, we'll handle everything in the background. So the system will be configured, tested, and prepared again, without impacting your day-to-day operations. So when you're ready to make the switch, we basically just turn it on. So we swap everything over. So it's basically creating a sandbox in the back end of Yooz that will will create that new company that's from Business Central. We will have, take all of your new dimensions and have those loaded in and synced with Business Central. So if we have different ERP codes, we would have to update those. We would update our workflows and then swap everything over. So it's really simple. You don't need to worry about a long downtime or disruption during your business. And as you prepare for your transition from GP to BC, it's important to ask yourself a few key questions. So it'll help you make the best decision. Let's walk through some of those important questions. So first, ask yourself, which features do I still want to make sure that I have? So GP has been a reliable platform for many businesses, and you may have certain features that are critical to your operations. So whether it's specific financial reporting tools, inventory management, custom workflows, ensuring that these features are available in Business Central. With Yooz, you'll keep all of those features you already have. And BC has a broad range of functionalities that either replicate or enhance what you've been using inside of GP. Next question is, which features do I wish I had? So this is an opportunity to look beyond maintaining current functionality and looking at new features that can enhance your business operations. What could you gain by upgrading your ERP? Are there areas of your business where you need more automation, better analytics, and improved workflows? Take this time to evaluate how you can future-proof your business with tools and technologies. Another important question to ask is when makes the most sense to move? So timing is always crucial, right? When it comes to transitioning to a new ERP, plus the time it takes to have it implemented. So you want to plan the migration around your business's natural rhythms, such as, end of fiscal year or during a quieter season. So this ensures that the team can focus on the transition without it disrupting key business activities. But remember with Yooz that there's minimal downtime and disruption for you. Also consider, how the business is growing and evolving. Is there a tipping point where your current system is starting to limit your scalability? with the sunset of GP, you no longer have to wait on those challenging migrations. Why not take advantage of, getting your accounts payable process automated now instead of, I talk to a lot of clients that they plan on moving, but they're not actually going to start implementing for a year and a half. So if their implementation is anywhere from, 12 to 18 months, then we're realistically looking at, 3 years in 2028 that they'll actually have accounts payable. So this is a really great, it's a really great offering that we give to incentivize users. Why not start now to gain all of those advantages of accounts payable automation. And again, to emphasize what you need to know here is, you've got time. You can easily transition without any disruption, expense, and potentially gain more functionality. With that in mind, ask yourself when it makes sense to move. When you're ready, we'll help you get there in a month or less. So really quickly, I did want to just walk through the integration that we have with Business Central here at Yooz. So our GP connector is automated. It's a native integration that we've built here at Yooz, and it's run through SQL. So it doesn't require any middleware. It doesn't matter if you're a GP on-prem or in the cloud. So when you transition to Business Central, we do have a native API that's been established between Yooz and Business Central. So as often as every 15 minutes, we can sync in your master data. So if you're working with multiple dimensions, we don't have a limit on the number of dimensions that we can have inside of Yooz. Multi-entity management, if you're working with fixed assets, purchase orders, we can sync in your payment terms and taxes. And so Yooz will be a full mirror of your Business Central environment, as it is your GP environment as well. When invoices come in, they go through our AI data extraction process. So Yooz's AI is fully baked in to where it requires absolutely no training, templating, and we never outsource that technology either. Not only do we have AI with the data extraction, but we've recently released Yooz Protect, which is our fraud prevention tool with smart fake detection, multi-layer analysis, atypical amount detection. It's wonderful for vendor management and being able to catch those phishing emails in invoices that are coming in so often. Once the invoices have reached the approved status, based on the automated workflows that we have inside of Yooz, those will instantly sync into Business Central. So we can send those in direct to post or as a draft if you wanted to utilize workflows inside of Business Central. We're agnostic there. And one thing we will send in is the PDF of the invoice image, not just a link into Business Central. So in your cloud environment, you'll be able to store all of that inside of BC. We will bring in the URL back into Yooz into your BC environment if there's an empty field there. We will also push in any supporting documents that you might have attached to that invoice, along with the comments and the audit trail from Yooz. With Yooz, we can release payment out of Yooz with Yooz Pay. And if you just wanted to process invoices in Yooz, we can also feed back payment information in from Business Central to Yooz to mark that bill as paid. And finally, Yooz is a complete end-to-end solution. So with instant invoice capture from your dedicated inbox or scanning those documents in, we actually just released our vendor portal fetcher. So if you're going in and having to log into a vendor portal and download invoices, we can automate that process as well. I talked about a little bit about that AI-based smart data extraction. It's 85% accurate out of the box with machine learning built in to bring that up to a 95%, over 95% in just, about 60 days. We have automated smart workflows, the mobile application that can work on iOS and Android with full functionality in the app. We do have travel and expense management with receipts and expense reports, credit cards inside of Yooz. We released our vendor statement reconciliation tool as well, called Yooz Vendor Statements, back in Q4. So line level detail that can automatically match and point out discrepancies on your vendor statements compared to all of your invoices, your payments, and your credit notes. Yooz Protect AI fraud protection. Yooz does have a purchasing module where you can create purchase requests that can be sent through a workflow and convert to purchase orders. We can also integrate with the POs that you create inside of Business Central or in GP. We can build a budget table inside of Yooz to track those budgets through the purchasing and invoicing process. We have advanced reporting, KPIs, and analytics that are all completely customizable, as well as very robust searching capabilities, even by a keyword, vendor access for communication with your vendors, vendor portal, and then also payments. So a full end-to-end solution. The great thing here is that you can start, with a few of these solutions, and as you advance, as you grow, keep bundling, more things as if you need them. And Amy, do we have a poll here?
I was not given one, but we could have
Okay.
them put it in the
Yeah, if you
chat
want
if
to
they
put,
want.
yeah, if you want to put your answer in the chat, if you have a transition plan, yes, we have a plan. No, but we started researching, and no, we don't have a plan. So if you want to record that, and then finally, any questions today?
I'm back. All right. Yes, no questions right now. It doesn't look like. I'm looking to see, because sometimes people put it in the comments, sometimes they put it in the Q&A, but if you do have any questions before we wrap up, let us know. And of course, we will be sending out the recording email. All of this information will be in there. So if you have any questions that you come up with between now and then, you can certainly reach out to us and share that recording with others on your team. But thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for being a part of the GP to BC workshop. I hope you found it educational, informational. I hope it answered lots of your questions. I hope we can help you with that transition as you're thinking about it. And if you have any other questions, if you do need any additional information, feel free to reach out to me. You can certainly respond to the email when I send out the recording, and I can direct it to the right people, or you can reach out to anyone that participated today. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up and say thank you all for being here, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day today to learn more about moving from GP to BC. So thank you, everyone.